The massive ship Terra Nova moved slowly through space toward the white planet called Zarian Prime. Captain John Blake stood on the bridge looking at the strange world through the main window. The planet looked like a giant pearl floating in the darkness of space. White cities covered the surface, and oceans that sparkled like crystals stretched between them. Blake had been a ship captain for 20 years, but he had never seen anything like this. 6 months ago, Earth received its first message from aliens. The message came from beings called Zephyrians, who said they spoke for something called the Galactic Unity Council. They invited humans to join their group of 12 alien species that controlled 47 star systems. Ambassador Lisa Martinez walked onto the bridge carrying a folder full of papers. She had been chosen to speak for all of humanity at this first meeting. Martinez had worked for the United Nations for 15 years and had helped solve conflicts between countries on Earth. Now she had to speak for her entire planet. How long? Until we reach the planet? Martinez asked Blake. 2 hours, Blake replied. Are you ready for this? Martinez looked at her folder. Inside were Earth's hopes for joining the galactic community. The human race had dreamed of meeting aliens for hundreds of years. Now that dream was about to come true. I hope so, she said quietly. Dr. Kevin Walsh joined them at the window. He was the ship's expert on alien life forms. According to our information, 12 different alien species work together in this council. Each species has a special job. Zephyrians can read minds and handle talks between species. Korath are big and strong and work as soldiers. The Vexhi are like insects with many minds connected together, and they handle supplies and planning. Nodded. And now they want to add humans to their group. The question is what job they have planned for us, Martinez said. 2 hours later, Terra Nova entered orbit around Zarian Prime. A small alien ship came to meet them. The ship was smooth and silver and made no sound as it moved. It guided Terra Nova to a landing area near one of the white cities. Blake, Martinez, and Walsh left their ship and stepped onto alien ground for the first time. The air smelled different, like flowers mixed with metal. The gravity felt lighter than Earth's gravity. Buildings rose around them like white towers reaching toward the sky. 3 aliens waited to meet them. The first was tall and thin with blue-gray skin and no hair. Its eyes were large and black and seemed to look right through them. This was a Zephyrian. The second alien was huge, almost twice as tall as Blake. Its skin looked like gray stone and its arms were as thick as tree trunks. Yes. This was a Korath. The third alien looked like a giant ant walking on 2 legs. It moved in quick, jerky motions, and its black eyes reflected light like mirrors. This was one of the Vexhi. The Zephyrian stepped forward. When it spoke, the humans heard the words inside their heads instead of through their ears. Welcome to Zarian Prime. I am Speaker Veltar. You will follow us to the council chambers. The aliens led the humans through the white city. The buildings were beautiful but cold. Everything was perfectly clean and organized. No noise came from the streets. No one seemed to be walking around for fun. Everyone had a purpose and a place. It's like a museum, Walsh whispered to Martinez. A museum. Where everything is still alive, she whispered back. They reached a massive building at the center of the city. The building was shaped like a dome and was so large that clouds formed inside it near the top. Doors opened that were 20 feet tall. Inside, the humans saw the council chamber. The chamber was enormous. 12 giant chairs formed a circle. In the center, each chair was different, built for a different type of alien body. Above them, a clear dome showed the stars and galaxies spinning slowly in space. 11 of the 12 chairs were filled with aliens the humans had never seen before. There were beings made of what looked like living crystal. There were creatures that floated in the air without wings. There were things that might have been plants or animals or something else entirely. In the center of the circle sat one small chair. It was clearly meant for humans, but it was placed far from the other chairs. It's like it was not really part of the group. Speaker Veltar pointed to the small chair. Ambassador Martinez, you will sit there. Martinez walked to the chair. It felt like walking into the center of an arena where everyone was watching her. She sat down and looked up at the alien beings towering above her. Veltar's voice filled her mind again. Humans of Earth, you have been given a great honor. For 3,000 years, the Galactic Unity Council has brought peace and order to this part of the galaxy. Each species has found their proper place. Each world knows its role. Now we offer this same gift to your species. Martinez waited for him to continue. Around the circle, the other aliens watched her with expressions she could not read. Your species will serve as manual workers and basic repair technicians, Veltar continued. Your world, Earth, will provide raw materials, including metals and water. Your people will move to 17 different worlds where your work is needed. You will live in areas we have prepared for you. Your children will be taught the skills they need for their jobs. The words hit Martinez like cold water. She'd come here hoping to negotiate. She had expected to discuss what humans could offer and what they needed in return. Instead, she was being told what humans would do, whether they wanted to or not. She looked around the circle of aliens. None of them seemed to think there was anything strange about what Veltar had said. To them, this was simply how things worked. New species joined the council and were given their place in the system. These are the terms of your membership, Veltar said. There's nothing to discuss. You will accept your place, or you will remain. Alone in your small corner of space, Martinez felt her heart beating faster. Back on Earth, she had been given the power to negotiate for humanity's future. But there was nothing to negotiate. The council had already decided what humans were, worth, and what they would do. She stood up from the small chair. We need time to think about this offer. A sound came from the direction of the Koroth delegation. It might have been laughter, but it sounded like rocks grinding together. There is no thinking required, the giant Koroth general said in a voice. Like an earthquake, you accept or you refuse. If you refuse, you stay alone and weak. If you accept, you become part of something greater than your small world. Blake stepped forward from where he had been standing near the wall. Appreciate the offer. But our people need to hear these terms and decide for themselves. Your people will decide what we tell them to decide, Veltar said. His mental voice carried amusement, like an adult talking to a child. You have 12 hours to contact your leaders and accept our generous offer. Martinez looked at Blake. She could see the anger in his eyes, but also something else. Determination. The same look she had seen on his face when he commanded his ship through dangerous space storms. 12 hours, she agreed. As the humans left the council chamber, Martinez felt the weight of 40 billion people on her shoulders. Humanity had reached for the stars, hoping to find friends and partners. Instead, they had found masters who saw them as nothing more than useful animals. Back on Terra Nova, Blake activated the quantum communication system that connected them to Earth. Within minutes, President Adams' face appeared on the screen. What's the situation, Ambassador? The president asked. Martinez explained the council's offer. She spoke. She watched the president's expression change from hope to disbelief to anger. Let me understand this, President Adams said slowly. They want us to become their servants. That's the only option they're offering, Martinez replied. President Adams was quiet for a long moment. Then he looked directly into the camera. Ambassador Martinez, please inform the Council that the United States of America, and I believe I speak for all of Earth, did not claw our way to the stars to kneel before anyone. You respectfully decline their generous offer. Blake smiled for the first time since arriving at Zarian Prime. What should I tell them our answer is? Tell them. Martinez said that humanity chooses to write its own story among the stars. The next morning, Ambassador Martinez walked back into the council chamber. Her steps echoed in the huge room as she approached the small chair in the center. The 12 alien species watched her from their towering seats. Some looked curious. Others looked annoyed that she had taken so long to accept what they saw as an obvious choice. Speaker Veltar's mental voice filled the chamber before Martinez even sat down. Human Ambassador, you have had sufficient time to contact your leaders. What is Earth's answer to our generous offer? Martinez stood straight and looked up at the circle of aliens. Her voice was calm and clear when she spoke. The people of Earth thank the Galactic Unity Council for their offer. However, We must respectfully decline membership under the terms you have presented. We formally withdraw our request to join the Council and ask that all contact between our species end immediately." The silence that followed was complete. For several long seconds, no one moved or spoke. Martinez could hear her own heartbeat in the quiet chamber. The concept of refusal seemed to break. Something in the aliens' understanding of how the galaxy worked. For 3,000 years, every species had accepted their place in the Council's system. Some had negotiated for better positions, but none had ever simply said no and walked away. "You choose to remain alone rather than become civilized?" Beltar asked. The confusion in his mental voice was clear. "We choose freedom over slavery," Martinez replied. "Earth will find its own path among the stars." General Throck of the Koroth leaned forward in his massive stone chair. His voice rumbled like an avalanche. "Your species has 17 ships that can travel between stars. We command fleets of thousands of vessels. Your choice is not wisdom, human. It is suicide." Captain Blake stepped forward from his position. "Near the wall? Maybe you're right, General. But it's still our choice to make." A being that looked like living crystal spoke in a voice like wind chimes. "You cannot survive alone in space. The galaxy is dangerous. Pirates, cosmic storms, hostile species not bound by council law. You will beg us to save you within 1 year, perhaps," Martinez said. "But if we do beg, at least it will be our decision to beg, not an order to kneel." Dr. Walsh watched the aliens' reactions with fascination. These beings had built a perfect system where every species knew their place and stayed in it. The idea that someone might choose uncertainty over guaranteed survival seemed to hurt their minds. Veltar tried one last time to understand. His mental probe reached toward Martinez's thoughts, seeking to find the logic behind this impossible decision. But instead of confusion or fear, he found only determination. The human mind was alien to him in ways he had never expected. "This meeting is concluded," Veltar announced. "The humans have chosen their fate." Within 2 hours, Terra Nova left orbit around Zarian Prime. The departure was watched by Council monitoring stations throughout the system. Scientists and military leaders tried to track where the human ship was going, but Terra Nova's destination remained a mystery. Back on Earth, President Adams called an emergency meeting of the United Nations. Representatives from every nation gathered in New York as Adams explained what had happened at Zarian Prime. "We have learned that we are not alone in the universe," Adams told the assembly. "We have also learned that the universe already has rulers who see us as servants. The question before us now is simple. Do we accept a future where humanity kneels, or do we build our own future among the stars?" The vote was unanimous. Every nation on Earth agreed to support what they called the Exodus Protocol. If humanity could not find its place in someone else's galaxy, they would create their own. Dr. Sarah Kim was placed in charge of the Global Space Initiative. Within days, she activated projects that had been theoretical for decades. Construction began on massive generation ships in Earth's orbital shipyards. These ships were designed to carry thousands of people to distant stars and establish new colonies. Scientists around the world focused their research on faster-than-light travel. Technology humans had learned from studying captured alien. Signals pointed toward possibilities the aliens themselves had never explored. Human curiosity and willingness to take risks might lead to breakthroughs that careful alien science had missed. Most importantly, every human settlement beyond Earth received the same urgent message. Come home or go dark. The galaxy is about to become dangerous for humans. The withdrawal began immediately. Human trading posts that had been operating near alien space closed overnight. Research stations studying distant stars went silent. Mining operations on asteroid belts packed up their equipment and disappeared. The 17 human starships that had been exploring the galaxy began a careful journey back toward Earth. But not all of them came home. Some were sent to scout distant regions where the Council had no presence. Others were given sealed orders to establish hidden bases in empty star systems. Admiral Frank Rodriguez commanded the science ship New Horizon. the last human vessel to leave Council space. As his ship prepared to jump to hyperspace, his communications officer, Lieutenant Danny Park, intercepted alien transmissions. "Sir, the Zephyrians are trying to track our jump signatures. They want to know where we're going." Rodriguez looked at the star map on his screen. Red dots marked Council territories. Beyond them lay the vast unknown regions where humans might build something new. "Let them try to follow us," Rodriguez said. "In 20 years they'll wish they had asked a different question." "What question is that, sir?" "Not where we're going," Rodriguez replied, "but what we're going to become." New Horizon jumped to hyperspace and vanished from Council sensors. Behind them, Zarian Prime continued its ancient orbit, its white cities reflecting starlight as they had for thousands of years. In the Council chamber, 12 species began their regular business. Trade routes were planned. New colonies were approved. Military patrols were assigned. The galaxy settled back into its orderly routine. But Speaker Veltar found himself returning to the empty space where the small human chair had sat. Something about the humans bothered him in ways he could not explain. Their refusal went against everything the Council understood about how intelligent species behaved. The Zephyrians were masters of reading alien minds. But human thoughts had felt different. Where other species thought in terms of survival and advancement, humans seemed to think in terms of possibilities and choices. It was a dangerous way to think. On the edge of Council space, monitoring stations reported that all human signals had stopped. Earth itself went silent, its radio transmissions ending abruptly. It was as if the entire human species had simply vanished from the galaxy. "Good riddance," General Throck declared when the reports reached the Council. "One less problem to manage." Deep in space, far from Council territories, the first human generation ships were already beginning their long journeys to distant stars. Each ship carried thousands of people, along with all the knowledge and technology humanity had developed. They also carried something the Council species had forgotten existed: the willingness to risk everything for the chance to build something better. Dr. Kim stood in the observation deck of the Generation, ship Freedom's call as Earth grew smaller behind them. Her assistant engineer, Mike Torres, joined her at the window. "Do you think we're making the right choice?" Torres asked. Kim watched Earth's blue marble fade into the starfield. Somewhere in the galaxy, alien species were living safe, ordered, lives under the Council's protection. But safety came with a price that humanity was not willing to pay. "Ask me in 50 years, Kim said. "When we've built cities on worlds the Council never dreamed of visiting. When we've made friends with species they consider too primitive to notice. When we've learned things about the universe that their careful science never discovered. And if we fail," Kim smiled, "then at least we'll fail as free beings reaching for something better, not as slaves grateful for security." Behind them, Earth continued its orbit around the sun, tended by automated systems but empty of human life. The blue world had become a monument to a species that chose the unknown over the certain, adventure over safety, freedom over survival. In the deep void between stars, humanity began its greatest journey. Not just to new worlds, but toward becoming something the galaxy had never seen before. Now the Council would have 23 years to forget about the strange humans who walked away from their perfect system. It would not be enough time. 23 years passed in the galaxy, while humanity vanished into the dark spaces between stars. The Galactic Unity Council continued its work as it had for thousands of years. New species joined the system and found their assigned places. Trade flowed along established routes. Order was maintained across 47 star systems. The humans became a forgotten curiosity. Council universities taught about them as an example of a primitive species that chose extinction over civilization. Most aliens believed the humans had simply died out in the harsh emptiness of space beyond. Council protection, but Speaker Veltar of the Zephyrians sometimes wondered about the missing humans. His people were the galaxy's experts at reading minds and understanding alien thoughts. The human minds he had touched 23 years ago had felt different from any species the Council had ever encountered. Where other beings thought about survival and safety, humans had thought about possibilities and potential in the deep reaches of space. Far beyond the outermost council territories, those possibilities were becoming reality. Captain Rose Bennett stood on the observation deck of the Generation ship, New Seattle, as it entered orbit around a world unlike anything in council space. The planet defied the normal rules of physics. Gravity flowed in visible rivers across the surface. Mountains floated in the air held up by magnetic fields. Oceans hung suspended in spheres above the continents. "How do we build a colony on a world like this?" asked her second-in-command, Lieutenant Bob Chen. Bennett smiled as she watched a floating island drift past their ship. "Hey, we don't build on it. We build with it. Humans adapt, Bob. It's what we do best." Within months, New Seattle became the first human city built around impossible physics. Instead of fighting the gravity rivers, the colonists used them to power their machines. Instead of avoiding the floating mountains, they built their homes inside them. The city grew in 3 dimensions, with neighborhoods that existed in multiple gravity fields at once. The colonists discovered that living with strange physics changed how they thought about problems. And up and down were just suggestions, solutions. It appeared that would never occur to species trapped by normal thinking. Meanwhile, in the Magellanic Void, Commander Pete Jackson made discoveries that would have shocked council scientists. His engineering teams, led by Dr. Amy Foster, studied the empty space between galaxies and found it was not empty at all. Space itself can be folded, Dr. Foster explained to Jackson as they reviewed their test results. Not just bent or curved, like council physics teaches, but actually folded like paper. If we can master this technique, our ships won't just go faster than light. They'll step outside normal space and time entirely. Jackson watched the test results on his screen. "Your describing should be impossible." According to council science, yes, Foster agreed. But council science assumes that beings should be careful and avoid risks. Human science assumes that if something might be possible, someone should try it and see what happens. The first prototype, ships using fold space drives, moved in ways that council physics insisted were impossible. They didn't travel from point A to point B. Instead, they convinced the universe that point A and point B were the same place. Travel time between distant stars dropped from years to days. On the dead world of Kepler 44 to B, Dr. Janet Lee made perhaps the most important discovery of all. The planet appeared lifeless from orbit, but deep scanning revealed something extraordinary buried beneath miles of crystal formations. "It's not a natural formation," Lee reported to the colony ship Excellence as it arrived in the system. "There are structures down there. Machines. They're old. Really old. The excavation took 2 years. What they found changed everything humans thought they knew about the galaxy. Buried beneath the crystal were machines built by a civilization that had existed long before the council was formed. The builders had transcended physical existence millions of years ago, but they had left their technology behind. The alien machines were more advanced than anything the council possessed. But more importantly, they operated on principles the council had never discovered. Where council technology focused on control and order, the ancient machines worked with chaos and possibility. "They're not just tools," Lee explained to the research team studying the machines, their teachers. "Each device shows us a new way to think about reality." Humans didn't just study the ancient technology, they improved it. Where the original builders had been cautious and methodical, humans applied creativity and intuition. They took carefully designed machines and turned them into wild experiments that pushed the boundaries of what was possible. The changes spread across all the human colonies. Ships that could exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Computers that calculated possibilities instead of certainties. Communication systems that worked through quantum entanglement across galactic distances. But the most important change was in the humans themselves. Living on impossible worlds and working with reality-bending technology expanded their minds in ways that no council species had ever experienced. They began to think in terms of infinite possibilities rather than limited options. Back in council space, the first signs of change began to appear. Ships traveling established trade routes started reporting strange phenomena. Navigation systems provided readings that made no sense. Instruments detected gravitational waves that followed no known patterns. General Throck of the Koroth dismissed these reports as equipment failures. Space has always held mysteries. Our technology is sufficient to handle any problems. Dr. Tur? Jekstar, the Council's greatest physicist, was not so confident. He studied the accumulated reports and found disturbing patterns. These are not random events, he told the Emergency Science Committee. Someone is systematically testing our territories. They're mapping our trade routes, studying our patrol schedules, learning our weaknesses. Pirates have always tested our defenses, argued Council Security Chief Vaxstar. We will hunt them down as we always have. These are not pirates, Doctor, Jekstar insisted. The technological signatures suggest capabilities far beyond any known species. Someone out there has developed science that makes our most advanced systems look primitive. The Council debated the issue for months without reaching any conclusions. The mysterious phenomena continued to grow more frequent and more bold. Ships reported seeing impossible things, vessels that phased in and out of reality, space stations that existed in multiple locations at the same time, beings that communicated through quantum effects across thousands of light years. On Zarian Prime, something even stranger began to happen. Children started having dreams about a blue world covered with oceans and green continents. They dreamed of creatures who walked on two legs and reached for the stars not because they were ordered to, but because they wanted to see what was out there. The children had never heard of Earth or humans. Those topics were not taught in Council schools. But night after night, young aliens across Council space dreamed of skies filled with birds and oceans filled with fish and beings who built machines to explore rather than to control. Child psychologists studied the phenomenon but found no explanation. The dreams seemed to come from nowhere, carrying memories of a world that the Council claimed no longer existed. Speaker Veltar called together the Council's greatest minds to discuss the growing mysteries. Representatives from all 12 species gathered in the ancient chamber where humanity had once been offered their place in the galactic order. Something is happening that we do not understand, Veltar announced. Our instruments detect technology we cannot explain. Our children dream of worlds we have never seen. Our scientists report phenomena that our theories say are impossible. The insectoid Vex-High Collective processed all available data through their hive mind. Their conclusion was disturbing. The patterns suggest systematic preparation for something. The unknown force is not hiding from us. They are studying us. Studying us for what purpose? Asked the floating gas being representative of the ethereal collective. Unknown, the Vexi replied. But the scope of their activities suggests they possess resources comparable to our entire civilization. In the depths of space, far beyond. Council's sensors, the last generation ship from Earth, completed its journey to the Andromeda Spiral. Captain Helen Carter stood on the bridge of humanity's dream as they established orbit around a star system that would become humanity's new home. Base. Signal all colonies, she ordered her communications officer. Begin Phase 2 of the Exodus Protocol. It's time to let the galaxy know that humanity has returned. Toward 23 years of growth and discovery had transformed the human race into something the galaxy had never seen. They were no longer the primitive species that had stumbled into Council space, begging for acceptance. They had become gardeners of possibility, cultivators of the impossible, and teachers of freedom. The Council was about to learn what happened when you offered servitude to a species that preferred to build their own tables. The message appeared everywhere at once. Every screen in Council space displayed the same transmission. Every communication device echoed with the same words. Every quantum computer core burned the message into its memory banks.
No one could
Turn it off or block it. A woman with gray hair and kind eyes looked out from billions of screens across the galaxy. Her voice was calm, but carried the weight of authority that came from leading people through impossible challenges. This is Admiral Helen Carter of the Terran Federation. 25 years ago, humanity was offered a seat at your table. We chose to leave and build our own. Today we return not as servants seeking approval, but as equals offering friendship. The galaxy has room for many ways of life. You chose order through hierarchy. We chose growth through cooperation. The universe will decide which path serves life better. The reaction across council space was immediate chaos. Emergency sessions convened on every major world. Military commanders scrambled to understand how a supposedly extinct species could broadcast simultaneously across thousands of star systems. Scientists tried to explain technology that allowed instant communication across galactic distances. Speaker
Altar.
called an emergency meeting of the full council. As the 12 species gathered in their ancient chamber, reports flooded in from across their territories. The humans had not sent one ship to deliver their message. It sent thousands. The Terran Federation fleet appeared throughout council space like ghosts becoming solid. Ships materialized in every major system, not attacking or threatening, but simply making their presence known. The vessels were unlike anything in council databases. They were beautiful and terrifying, their hulls seeming to shift between dimensions. Their designs based on principles that made council engineers weep with envy. How many ships? General Throck demanded as reports continued arriving. Current count exceeds 10,000 vessels, replied the Vexi collective mind. New contacts appearing every minute. Their technology allows them to exist in multiple locations simultaneously. Admiral Carter's flagship Humanity's Dream materialized in orbit around Zarian Prime. The ship was massive, dwarfing even the largest council dreadnoughts. But its most disturbing feature was that sensors could not agree on its exact location. The vessels seemed to exist in several different positions at once. Speaker Veltar came a transmission from the human ship. Admiral Carter requests permission to address the council in person. Veltar hesitated. Protocol demanded that unknown ships be turned away or destroyed, but the human fleet surrounding Zarian Prime made such actions seem pointless. More importantly, his telepathic senses detected something impossible about the human minds aboard the ships. They felt vast and interconnected in ways that reminded him of the ancient builders whose ruins occasionally turned up on dead worlds. Permission granted, Veltar replied. Admiral Carter transported to the council chamber, but she did not come. Alone, with her, were representatives of 17 species that the council had never encountered. There were insectoid beings that sang in harmonies, that made music of mathematics. Energy creatures that communicated through controlled bursts of stellar radiation. Mechanical beings that thought in quantum calculations but dreamed in poetry. You see, Carter said, as she looked around the circle of council species, we learned something during our travels that you never discovered. The galaxy doesn't need rulers. It needs gardeners. The assembled aliens were representatives of civilizations humanity had found in the deep void. Species that the council had dismissed as too primitive or too strange to be worth contact. Humanity had offered them the same choice the council had denied to Earth: partnership, debt. Veltar's mental voice carried unprecedented uncertainty. Your technology. How did a primitive species advance so far in such a short time? Dr. Rachel Kim, now elderly but still brilliant, stepped forward. She had led the scientific teams that unlocked the secrets of the ancient machines. We didn't advance. We evolved. You spent 3,000 years perfecting control over what you already knew. We spent 25 years learning to cooperate with what we didn't understand. The demonstration began gently. Human ships throughout council space started performing miracles. Dead worlds that the council had written off as too expensive to restore suddenly bloomed with life. Terran terraforming technology worked with planetary ecosystems instead of against them. Healing damage that had existed for centuries. Civilizations on the outer rim of council space, those deemed too primitive for full membership, found themselves. Offered clean energy, faster than light communication. And invitations to join a federation that valued diversity over conformity. General Throck stood from his massive chair. This disrupts the natural order. Our fleets must respond to this invasion. With respect, General Admiral Carter replied, this is not an invasion. It's an offer. The human ships began broadcasting historical records throughout council space. Not propaganda or threats, but simple truth. The real story of how the council had formed, told through the voices of species that had been uplifted by having their cultures systematically destroyed. Records of civilizations that had chosen resistance and been quietly eliminated. Your natural order is built on the graves of free peoples, Carter said sadly. We're not here to destroy your system. We're here to offer an alternative. The choice was presented to every world, every species, every individual in council space. Join the Terran Federation, where advancement came through cooperation and differences were celebrated as strengths. Or remain with the council, where order was maintained through hierarchy and conformity was enforced. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Entire civilizations voted to leave council space. Young Zephyrians abandoned their telepathic isolation to learn human concepts of individual thought and personal privacy. Koroth engineers studied human technology and discovered that true strength came not from armor and weapons, but from adaptation and creativity. Even some core council worlds chose to leave, their populations tired of a system that promised safety. In exchange for dreams, the exodus from council space happened faster than anyone had expected. Within months, half the council's territories had joined the Federation or declared independence.
Oh.
Trade routes collapsed as species found new partners. Military bases emptied as soldiers chose freedom over duty. Speaker Veltar watched his ancient civilization crumble and reshape itself around a completely different vision of what galactic society could be. The Zephyrians had been masters of the galaxy for 3 millennia. But they had never faced anything like human determination combined with the willing cooperation of dozens of species. Admiral Carter turned to the council chamber one final time. The once mighty assembly now sat in a hall, 2/3 empty. Many of the great chairs stood vacant as species chose new paths among the stars. We never wanted to rule your worlds, Carter told the remaining council members. We only wanted you to stop trying to rule ours. Now the galaxy is vast enough for both approaches to civilization. Perhaps in time you'll learn that the strongest foundations are built by those who choose to stay, not those who are forced to remain. The human fleet began departing council space, but they left behind something more valuable than any conquest. They left behind the idea that there were other ways to live among the stars. Ways that didn't require anyone to kneel or anyone to rule. Captain John Blake, now an old man, stood on the bridge of Terra Nova as they departed Zarian Prime for the last time. The same ship that had carried humanity's first diplomatic mission now served as a symbol of what determination and cooperation could accomplish. Where to now, sir? Asked Lieutenant Maria Santos, his young navigation officer. Blake smiled as he looked out at stars that no longer seemed foreign but familiar, like old friends welcoming him home. Around them, the combined fleets of the Terran Federation stretched. To the horizon, ships from dozens of worlds, carrying beings who had chosen freedom over security, adventure over safety, growth over stagnation. Everywhere, Lieutenant. We have a galaxy to explore, and for the first time in our history, we're not doing it alone. Behind them, Zarian Prime continued its ancient orbit around its white star. The planet's cities still gleamed like pearls, but something had changed. In the streets, young aliens walked with their heads up instead of bowed. In the schools, children learned about possibilities instead of just procedures. In the laboratories, scientists dared to ask questions that had been forbidden for 3,000 years. The galaxy had indeed trembled when humanity left the table 25 years ago. But it sang when they returned, not as conquerors or subjects, but as gardeners, who understood that the most beautiful gardens were those where every flower was free to bloom in its own way. The council would survive, but it would never again be the only choice. Across the stars, new alliances formed between species that had learned to value cooperation over control, diversity over uniformity, freedom over safety. Humanity had taught the galaxy its greatest lesson, that the universe was big enough for many different ways of reaching for the stars, and the most important choice any civilization could make was deciding whether to build walls or bridges between the worlds.